So flanking is the best thing you can do on Pale Rider to carry your games and just play well overall. So during this gameplay analysis, I'm going to talk a lot about that, but I'm also going to go over things that are just generally important for Pale Rider and just noting mistakes that I made when I was playing. So, playing with my team, doing something but not that much, and now we decide to go for a flank, as we should. I go for a longer route, and when you're flanking, you're going to have lots of little options about like how you path. And if you choose to take a longer flank like I did here, it's going to give you in a situation where instead of having fewer options where the enemy could potentially meet me, if I gone for the shorter flank right on my left here, meet me, catch me out, notice that I'm there, I don't get seen, and it decreases the chance that I'm going to be seen by somebody before I get in the position I want to be in. However, it also takes more time. So it's a trade-off. And there's times to take risks. During the middle of fights, you're going to be more likely to not be caught out going for a flank like that. So it just depends on the situation. And you need to, when you get a hold of the game, practice it, just see which one works the best for you. In which situations. Because there's times for everything. So, we're contesting over this point. It's obviously good for us to play the objective. We got there kind of late, which means that even if we win this point here, we're not going to get that much value out of it, which is okay. It's just not ideal by any situation. And again, I'm low, the other Pale Rider's low, and like, yeah, I could push that, but if I kill that Pale Rider there, it's not really going to do anything. It's going to force him to respawn and be close to the objective A that is about to start in 15 seconds. Meanwhile, I'm just going to be taking time away. Since I ran to the objective, it got me there to a really good time where there's 10 seconds till unlock, and it's going to let me perform and do this really nice play here. Hades is the time to go aggro. If you aren't popping off, if you aren't pushing when you have it up, then why are you even playing the character? I end up securing 3 kills out of it, which is a lot. And it's just honestly probably the best ult in the whole game. You obviously don't get any sort of damage reduction when you're using it, but you do get extra movement speed and you get a severely higher amount of damage. I believe it's 2 times. It is 2 times. And it just lets you frag out. I should have abandoned the situation. I started fighting over a point that wasn't really necessary. Like, it's okay to take these fights sometimes, but you don't really need to just be doing them just because. And I really was doing it because, and I got caught out when I could be contesting the objective or securing a better location. I talk about this a lot, but it's really important for everyone to think about anything that you're doing in a game like Gundam Evolution. Think of it as an advantage or securing yourself an advantage. So if you get a kill, you're securing yourself a about 15-second advantage on the enemy team of having one more player than them. It's not a kill, it's just an advantage. It's the same thing as for when you poke enemies out. If you poke an enemy out and make them go run away, you've secured yourself about a 7-second advantage. And sometimes when you go and feed like this, you've now secured your enemy team a 15-second advantage. Or if you're playing on an objective like C, where they're at right now, which is the furthest one, I give my team, well, let's count. I died at about 35 or whatever, and I'm probably not going to get to the point until, like 10 seconds left. So we're looking at like a 25-second time period where I'm not even in the fight at all, just because I went and fed. So it's really important on this vertical style of this vertical style of King of the Hill maps, to not die when it's on the last point, when it's on the furthest one. And when I say vertical, I mean, extending forward. It's really important because you'll be out of the fight for so much longer. On A, it's not a big deal, so you can take more risks. High grounds are really good too. You always want to be trying to secure a high ground because high grounds are another form of an angle. And flanking is all about securing an angle in the enemy team. Whereas, you have the main angle, you have one from the side. That's an angle. But if you're from above, it's also another angle. Just because of the way that it fundamentally works with the ability to back up and avoid enemy damage, and you can see over certain points, certain walls, sometimes over shields, hit them at the top of the head and things like that. So I go for another flank here. again, when you have Hades, it's time to frag. So that's what we're doing. I shouldn't be throwing grenades. The amount of damage I can output with just my regular primary fire is so high. And considering that I have so long in this ultimate, you just keep pressing that button. The left click one, because you'll just frag out and you'll do so much. As I did there. Like I said, obviously you can get caught out, so don't be too crazy. But even if you do, you should be aware. If you start playing really aggressive with it, just be aware and understand that there's a good chance that if someone sees you, you can easily escape, but you got to be on your toes. Due to the extra momentum, you can escape. And again, we go for another long flank, and we secure another kill. So I could be standing with my team, not giving them particularly any sort of advantage, or I could be on the flank like this. And just these sort of things, like I know it probably seems like you're like, done here, guys. Dude, like stop talking about flanking, we get it. But the reason I talk about it so much is because it really is so influential. And this isn't even just like I'm playing against low level players and so I'm able to exploit them. It's literally just that it's that advantageous, even really high ranks. And especially with the way that these sort of maps are designed, and by the fact that there's not a lot of abilities to stop this other than then turning around and fragging me back. Like when I'm pulling up right here, there's not really anything they can do. They don't have a diva to turn around and eat damage. They don't have like healers to do a bunch of healing. And so I secure most of the methods, I guess. Somehow miss this Ashimar like 4 times. And then there's nothing they can do but outskill me. While I may not be the best Pale Rider ever, that's a lot harder to do for an enemy team when I already have the jump on them. So it's all about flanking. Whereas a game like Overwatch, which is, you know, the comparative game to this one, you can be punished a lot more for flanking because you have like off tanks to turn around and peel you and you don't have as much mobility. So if you got into that position in the first place, then it's going to take you a lot longer to get back to your team. So yeah. Again, it's really important to play the objective. You don't have to be on the objective, but you don't want to be playing elsewhere very frequently. It's a very high skill to be able to play effectively when you're not using the objective. But that comes from knowing specifically what you could be doing and choosing not to do it. The higher in skill you get at games like these, the more you can understand like the more you understand like what your trade-offs for every situation. Because I could be standing right here, but I could also be standing somewhere else on the map. And you have to understand like what exactly the purpose is and the benefit of everything that you're doing would be. But generally, and just even in really high level play, it's good. And you want to be defaulting to playing the point about 90% of the time. But especially in lower situations too, in lower tiers, you also want to be doing the same thing. Also, pretty important to mention, as a flanker, there's going to be times where you run in and you get a kill and you die. In a game like Overwatch, that's not a big deal because they can't resurrect it unless they have mercy. But in this game, they do. So if you get caught out in a situation like that, it's more important for you to try and ensure you get the finish on the kill than it is for you to get another one. Because if I kill this Zaku right now, the Metis might res the Exia and then be able to res the Zaku at the same time. Or another teammate might, or like right after, another teammate might come save the Zaku also. But if you shoot them, they can't do that. So that's, you know, you could get no kills at all going for the second kill, or you can ensure that you get one and ensure that you're trading and not feeding. Especially on characters like GM Sniper. I was watching some of my gameplay for GM Sniper earlier, and I was noticing that I was reloading right after I downed somebody, just because I'm used to doing that. But it's important to, if you have any bullets left, just finish the kill. Just treat it as like a half kill, like you need to finish it. And again, always flanking, then it gives me a lot of value. And I'm not always coming from the same way either. I do generally have to come around them, but other times I went through the high ground there. Other times I went all the way around. That time I went through the underpass version. And it's allow you to carry games like this. Like your goal in games shouldn't be to carry per se, but it should be to carry them. Because as much as you understand that you need to work with people and you need to facilitate them, in the end, you do kind of have to deadlift your own games. You're the only constant in your game. And the better you are at fragging enemies and the more you understand when to choose to frag enemies and have the skill set to do so, the more you can understand when there's time when you shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff. And yeah. And we just kill this guy. Call it good. So say this multiple times, just make sure that you are flanking. Understand the risks, understand that when you're flanking, you might be cut off. You might have to 1v1 somebody. Try and be as unpredictable as possible. Be sneaky. You show up, start popping them in the back. It's really hard for them to react to that. You're going to deal a hefty amount of damage. And in the time that you're doing that, it gives your team a bunch of space and time to just push into the enemy. So if you're communicating in game 2, when you're doing that, you're like, all right, I'm pulling up, I'm hitting them from behind in 3, 2, 1, like push in, just to communicate that what you're doing. And that sort of a calm in particular is really good because it lets your team know what opportunity they have, whereas they're just playing and they just are gonna maybe see it after it's already happened. And in lower ranks, you shouldn't really expect people to like just do it because people have a hard time pressing W in lower ranks, or they're worried about what's gonna happen. They don't want to die. But even then, it's good to calm because sometimes people will push and you get a lot of advantage just playing hard aggro and hard aggressive. If you're looking for some more information about how to play Pale Rider, make sure to check out this Pale Rider Mobile Suit Guide. I talk about the strengths and weaknesses, the abilities, how to play, when to play. I got everything for you guys, so make sure to check that out.